Imagine every cloud backup you trust suddenly inaccessible. Every document, every saved file, every archive you assumed would persist. The data isn't corrupt, it's just gone. For nearly 6 centuries, the Library of Alexandria functioned as the ancient world's central repository. Scholars traveled from across the Mediterranean to consult works that existed nowhere else. The institution didn't collapse in a single catastrophic event. It declined gradually through a combination of budget cuts, political instability, and neglect spanning several centuries. What vanished wasn't just individual texts. It was the coordinated accumulation of knowledge from multiple civilizations, gathered and cross-referenced in one location. We'll look at 4 works, from solar measurement to theatrical innovation, that each removed a different kind of certainty. The measurement that would have settled ancient astronomy. Aristarchus of Samos proposed a heliocentric model of the cosmos around 270 BCE, placing the Sun at the center with Earth and other planets orbiting it. The result was 17 centuries of Earth-centered astronomy. His treatise on the sizes and distances of the Sun and Moon survived in fragmentary form, preserving his geometric method for calculating celestial distances. But his full work arguing for heliocentrism, the one that challenged prevailing geocentric assumptions, did not. The complete manuscript was housed in Alexandria's collection. It likely vanished during the library's gradual decline between the 3rd and 5th centuries CE. No single destructive event can be definitively blamed. What remains are references. Archimedes mentions Aristarchus's heliocentric hypothesis in The Sand Reckoner, written around 250 BCE. Plutarch, 5 centuries later, describes the model briefly but provides no mathematical justification. We have acknowledgement without demonstration. The missing piece is the original argumentation. The observations, calculations, and geometric proofs Aristarchus used to support his claim are gone. Without the treatise, later scholars encountered the idea only as an unsubstantiated alternative. Ptolemy, working in Alexandria around 150 CE, built his influential geocentric model using epicycles to explain planetary motion. That framework became canonical. Islamic astronomers spent centuries refining Ptolemy's system. They added layers of mathematical complexity to account for observational discrepancies. By the time Copernicus proposed heliocentrism in 1543, 17 centuries of astronomical tradition had developed around Earth-centered cosmology. The entire intellectual infrastructure had to be dismantled and rebuilt, not just corrected. Astronomers weren't recovering a lost idea. They were re-arguing from scratch against an entrenched paradigm. That paradigm had accumulated institutional, theological, and mathematical support across multiple civilizations. If the treatise had survived, Renaissance astronomers would have encountered not just an abstract hypothesis, but a worked geometric model with supporting observations, an alternative foundation already mathematically developed. The catalog that knew what vanished. Callimachus of Cyrene, working as a scholar at the Library of Alexandria around 245 BCE, created the Pinakies, a 120-scroll catalog systematically listing the institution's holdings. Without it, we lost the inventory of ancient knowledge itself. Each entry recorded the author's name, the work's title, its opening line, its length in lines, and a subject classification. The catalog functioned as both inventory and finding system. It organized roughly 400,000 scrolls into categories: drama, oratory, philosophy, medicine, history, law, and miscellaneous writings. When it disappeared, likely during the same centuries-long decline that eroded the library itself, we lost the map to what had been collected. No complete copy of the Pinakies has been recovered. Fragments survive only as quotations in later texts, primarily in the works of Athenaeus and other compilers who reference specific entries. We have scattered citations, but not the structural system. Here's what makes this significant. Without the Pinakies, we cannot reconstruct a definitive list of what the library contained. Modern scholars estimate the collection's size based on references in surviving literature, but those references are incomplete and biased toward frequently cited works. Obscure texts, regional writings, and technical manuals, anything that later authors didn't quote. vanished from the historical record without even leaving their titles behind. It's like cataloging a destroyed library by reading book reviews instead of checking the shelves directly. You capture what was popular or controversial, but miss everything that existed quietly in the stacks. The loss compounded. Medieval scholars worked from Roman-era copies of Greek texts. Those copies themselves represented only what had been deemed important enough to recopy after Alexandria's decline. Without the Pnyx as reference, no one could identify what had been systematically excluded. Entire genres may have disappeared without documentation. Scientific observations, regional histories, alternative philosophical schools. We don't know what questions we can't ask. If the Pnyx had survived, even without the texts themselves, historians would have a complete index of ancient knowledge production. We'd know which civilizations contributed technical writing, what subjects were studied, and what intellectual diversity existed before the consolidation of the classical canon. The plays that defined a genre. Before it was standardized, Greek tragedians of the 5th and 4th centuries BCE wrote prolifically for Athenian festivals and regional competitions. We're reading less than 12% of the work. Aeschylus produced approximately 90 plays. We have 7. Sophocles wrote 123. We have 7. Euripides wrote 92. We have 19. But only because a Byzantine scholar in the Middle Ages shelved one alphabetically arranged volume containing plays whose titles began with certain letters, an accident of organization, not deliberate preservation. The majority of their works were copied into the Library of Alexandria's collection. There they remained accessible to scholars studying dramatic form and poetic innovation. These manuscripts deteriorated over centuries as the institution's resources declined. No systematic copying program preserved them elsewhere. What survives represents less than 12% of what these 3 playwrights alone created. Later, Roman copies preserved the most frequently performed plays, those already considered canonical by the 1st century BCE. Everything else vanished. The problem wasn't just quantity. Ancient theater was experimental. Playwrights competed for innovation, testing narrative structures, chorus integration, and thematic approaches. The plays we have are the ones that later generations elevated as exemplars. Tragic form already refined and standardized. The missing works likely included failures, radical structural experiments, unpopular themes, and early developmental pieces. Without them, scholars analyze Greek tragedy through its most polished iterations. Most experiments are gone. We study the finished genre, not its formation. It's like reconstructing the history of cinema using only Academy Award winners. You'd understand excellence, but not evolution. You wouldn't see which experiments failed, how audiences initially responded, or what techniques were abandoned. The loss wasn't just immediate, it was compounding. Roman playwrights imitated the surviving Greek models, reinforcing certain conventions while others disappeared. Renaissance dramatists revived what Rome had preserved, further entrenching a narrow selection. By the time modern scholars began systematic study of Greek drama in the 18th century, the canonical 7-play selections had become synonymous with the genre itself. If the fuller body of work had survived, we'd understand how tragedy developed, not just what it became. We'd see which innovations succeeded, which failed, and how 5th century Athenian audiences received experimental work before later critics declared certain plays definitive. The coordinates that measured the world. Eratosthenes of Cyrene, serving as the library's 3rd head librarian around 240 BCE, calculated Earth's circumference using geometric principles and observational data. Everyone after him worked from a worse map. He measured the angle of the sun's shadow at noon in Alexandria and Syene, modern Aswan. He applied the distance between the 2 cities. From this, he derived a circumference of approximately 250,000 stades, within 2 to 15% accuracy depending on which stadion length he used. His work, Geography, synthesized this measurement with coordinate-based mapping. He divided the known world into a grid using lines of latitude and longitude. He assigned numerical positions to hundreds of locations across 3 continents. The manuscript, stored in Alexandria's collection, contained not just the method, but the data tables, the actual coordinates he had compiled. What survives is the method described by later writers. Strabo, writing 3 centuries after Eratosthenes, preserved the conceptual approach in his own geography. Ptolemy referenced Eratosthenes' framework when constructing his later coordinate system, but the original tables, the specific numerical positions for cities, rivers, coastlines, and landmarks, did not survive. We have descriptions of a system without the data that made it functional. Roman cartographers understood that coordinate systems existed, but without Eratosthenes' tables, they couldn't verify his positions or build upon them directly. Ptolemy, working 4 centuries later, had to reconstruct a coordinate framework from scattered sources and his own observations. His geography became the standard reference, but it introduced errors because he was rebuilding from incomplete information. Medieval mapmakers inherited Ptolemy's system, unaware that more accurate measurements had once existed. They worked with accumulated distortions, coastlines misplaced, distances miscalculated, regional positions systematically shifted. Like having someone describe a GPS system without providing the coordinates, you understand the principle but can't navigate. For over a millennium, cartographers lacked a reliable baseline for map projection. They understood Earth was spherical, but couldn't calculate how to accurately project that sphere onto flat surfaces. Eratosthenes had established mathematical methods for this. His coordinate data would have provided checkpoints against which new observations could be calibrated. Instead, each generation of mapmakers started partially from scratch. They corrected errors slowly through trial, exploration, and re-observation. The intellectual work wasn't just lost, it had to be redone. Eratosthenes' coordinates vanished. Aristarchus's argumentation disappeared. The catalog crumbled. The plays were never recopied. What remains are fragments preserved by chance. A Byzantine librarian's alphabetical shelving, a later scientist's brief citation, a geographer's secondhand summary. File formats stop working. Platforms shut down. Hard drives fail without backup. The storage method changes, but the fragility persists. We assume institutional permanence, then watch repositories dissolve through budget cuts, neglect, or simple format obsolescence. Digital archives face the same vulnerability that scrolls did. They survive only as long as someone maintains them. These fragments exist because someone decided they were worth copying.